In Norse mythology, the world hangs from a great ash tree, Yggdrasil. Actually, not just the world, but 9 worlds, 9 realms. And at the height of that tree, the highest realm is Asgard, the home of the Aesir, ruled over by Odin and Frigg. Husband and wife, Odin and Frigg, are still with us today. We propitiate them weekly. For Wednesday is Wotan's day, Odin's day, and Friday is Frigg's day. So whether you know it or not, you are still propitiating the ancient gods of Norse mythology. There are a few others scattered in there as well, but we'll just deal with Odin and Frigg and their children. They had sons, brothers, Hod and Balder. And though they were brothers, they were different as night and day, truly. For Hod was blind, and he was the personification of darkness itself. Not malign, malicious, malignant darkness, as we like to vilify it in our popular mythologies of the present day. Hod was the calming, cool darkness of the shade, the place of mystery and dream and secret. And, conversely, Balder was light. He was the light itself, not forceful, burning sources of light. No, he was the light that filled the room with clarity and wonder. And Balder's Hall, for that reason, was a favorite gathering place for all the gods of Asgard and Vanaheim, another of the realms where the Aesir and the Vanir would come together in the hall of Balder, which was known as Breidablik, which meant shining hall. And a tree there was that grew in the hall of Balder's bright lit place. And judgment was sometimes held beneath the boughs of that tree. For when there were disputes and when there were quarrels, they were brought to Balder's hall, and there beneath the tree, judgment was made and fixed, immutable. For Balder was truth itself. And therefore it was a place of healing as well. Tyr came there after Fenris the wolf bit off his hand. Here Tyr found healing there. Iduna would come there with her basket of golden apples that would revive the youth of all the gods and in this way keep them eternally young. Bragi would come there to compose his beautiful poetry and music. It was the hall of light, a hall of truth. And because of that, no deception, no lie could enter in to the hall of Balder. And for that reason, there was one among them who could not enter. Loki, the trickster. Still a popular figure today, isn't he? Yeah, that tells us something. Loki was the deceiver, the god of lies, the shape-shifter. And he could therefore never enter the hall of Balder, so always outside of Balder's halls he was scheming, looking for his opportunity. And it came when trouble entered the hall of Balder in the night, in the dream. As he slept, Balder dreamt of the deep realm of Helheim, the land of the dead, ruled over by the goddess Hel, where they were making ready a great feast. The walls were strewn with gold and jewels. The mead was brewing to welcome Balder in. A troubling dream, for when Balder awoke, he knew it meant his death was imminent. Now, you and I might have a dream that scares us, and you might just dismiss it as, well, but that is just a dream. But as I said, no falsehood could enter the hall of Balder. And so when that dream made its way in there, it had to be true. His death was imminent. How was not clear. Odin, as a good, dutiful, loving father, rode right down through all the 9 realms down to hell itself to find out the truth of this and came back to confirm indeed they're getting ready to welcome Balder. Frigg, as the loving mother, was immediately in denial. Well, her son had just been given a terminal diagnosis. He was going to die, and she would not have it. So she put on her magical cape of falcon feathers and flew throughout all the 9 realms, determined to make the world safe for her son. She went through all of the elements to all of the animals, to the air, the fire, the water, the earth, and she secured from them all a promise that they would not harm her son. Exhaustively, she went throughout all the realms, from the giants and the dwarves, from the light elves and the dark elves, from all of the animals, from the great bears down to the smallest insects. She secured their vow that they would not harm Balder. And as she was on her way back up in Asgard, Thor, another popular deity in the present day, with his great hammer Mjolnir and his flashing anger, for he was quick-tempered. Thor had been insulted in some way, probably by something Loki said, and he slammed his hammer down upon a boulder so hard that it smashed the boulder into 1,000 sharp shards that went flying through the air. As Balder stood there, the shards came straight at him. And as everybody watched, they thought, this is it. This is what has been foretold. But to their amazement, as those sharp, heavy shards came flying straight towards Balder, just before reaching him, they all dissolved into dust and fell scattered at his feet. That was amazing. Thor, to see the truth of what he had just witnessed, picked up one shard of stone and just tossed it at Balder, but even though his throw was good and his aim was true, it too shattered into dust. Then Tyr took his sword. He was a mighty swordsman, even without his one hand, and he just gently brought the tip towards Balder's heart, but the sword turned aside, disobeying its master. He brought it a little closer, and again it turned aside. He brought it with more force, and again it flew aside. And they all stood amazed to see that nothing could assail Balder. He was indeed the unassailable truth. Well, that was because of Frigg's hard work, securing a promise from everything, every element, every mote, every little thing that she could find, had vowed not to harm Balder. And so, satisfied, she returned home, that she had achieved what she wanted to, that she had forbidden Balder's death. But the gods, having seen Balder's invulnerability, made a game of it. And they started shooting arrows, throwing spears, tossing stones, throwing fire. But nothing could assail Balder. And he stood there and watched, and everybody laughed and enjoyed it. And that reminds me, when I was a boy, we used to play games very much like that. We assailed one another for fun. We ran out in the open and shot with as pretend snipers, and we faked our deaths in many colorful and dramatic ways. We played King of the Hill or Murder the Guy with the Ball. Why is it? I don't know. But somehow or other, it was ingrained as a source of fun. And so it was in Asgard at that time. They all came out to assail Balder, and they all had great fun doing this and watching this gaming. Loki saw his chance. He wanted to find out what was going on and how it had happened. Now he knew that if he went right up to Frigg and he asked her, she would not discuss it with him. He was known to be a liar. But he could change his shape, and so he pulled his hair down into long, greasy strands, and he crooked his nose out, and he hunched his back, and he withered his limbs, and he stretched his breast down to swinging dugs, and he threw an aged, ragged cloak over his body and took a walking staff, and as an old crone came walking up to Frigg, "Oh, let me stop and catch my breath. Oh, my goodness. Oh, good mother, come and sit beside me and rest yourself. I can see how weary you are," said Frigg, and invited this old crone to come and sit beside. "Oh, thank you, dear. Thank you so much. Oh, my legs have seen better days, it is true. What are we doing anyway? What's this entertainment I'm seeing here? Who is that there in the midst of all that flurry of violence? Oh, my goodness, look at the way the boys play. They're so violent. Isn't that the way of boys?" "Yes, well, that is my son in the middle of..." "You really let your son suffer such danger? This is a dangerous game they play, is it not? Oh, I kept my son as safe as I could, and yet, alas, he's gone, gone, gone. It is the greatest tragedy of all to outlive one's children. But I see your son may be bound for the same fate. I beg you, good mother, if you are indeed a good mother, stop this folly. Save your boy. Enjoy him while he can." "Well, I do not fear for my son, good woman," said Frigg. "For I know the truth of what is going on, you see. I did this. I got everyone, everything, every elemental, every animal, all beings of all 9 realms to vow safety for my son. And so, as you see, nothing can bring him harm." My goodness, you must never sleep to be able to have such vigil over your son. Wow, that is quite impressive. Well, good for you. Good for you, I say. I wish I'd had that myself for my own son. Alas, he's gone, gone, and never to return. But everything, you say, everything vowed to save. Oh, yes, indeed. Every little thing? I mean, what about the ants? Ants seem very harmless. They're very little things. But when they gather together in an army, they can do great harm. Oh, yes. Oh, no, I thought of that. No. The ants all vowed no harm would come to Balder. That's very good. That's very good. What about the frost in the morning, early morning frost? You know how slippery it can be. You step out, you slip, and you fall, and you break your neck before you know it. Oh, yes. No. I spoke to the frost. I spoke to the dew. I spoke to the grass. No, none of them will. Really? Well, I am so impressed. That is so. There's no little thing, is there? No tiny, insignificant thing that might have been overlooked. Well, said Frigg, I was speaking to the oak, that mighty tree. Oh, yes, well, that could bring harm, indeed. Yes, and it vowed no harm would come to him. No ship that it carried on the water would sink beneath him, and no spear that was fashioned from its wood would pierce him. No, the oak vowed safety for Balder. But there was, as I recall, a little green plant, a child really, a mistletoe, just in the cleft of one of its branches. I didn't really have to bother with that. Oh, of course not. No, the mistletoe, you say. No, of course not. No, that's such a harmless thing, isn't it? Yeah, oh, well, I cannot bear to watch this sport, you call it. Everyone trying to harm your son. And it just reminds me too much of my own loss. Yes, I understand, dear old mother. Yeah, well, forgive me, but I must go and seek solace on my own in the dark. Well, fare you well, good mother, good old woman. And so Loki learned the mistletoe, the little mistletoe growing in the cleft of the oak, had not been asked by Frigg to vow safety to Balder. And so Loki, recovering his former guise, went in search of the mistletoe. And when he found it, he said, "You have been insulted. You have been overlooked." Oh boy, do I know what that feels like. "You must," "What do you mean?" said the mistletoe. "What do you mean overlooked? What are you talking about?" "Well, I mean, the god Frigg went through all of the elements of the world. I mean, are you not more important than the insignificant ants? Are you not more important than the morning frost? And yet, of everything she secured a vow to bring no harm to Balder except for you." Well, if I were you, I'd be angry about it. And in this way, Loki stoked anger from the naive mistletoe plant. And Loki said, "Give me but a stem, and I will right this wrong for you." And so he took a stem of the mistletoe plant, sharpened it into a lethal dart, and came to where the gods were playing at killing Balder. And there sat Hod aside, Balder's brother, blind, enjoying the darkness that surrounded him. And Loki said, "What kind of brother are you, that you do not show honor to your brother, to Balder there? All of the others are playing at trying to maim him and kill him and harm him in some way, and all of them are failing, and they're having a great time doing it. It's a great celebration, really. It's a way to honor your brother. Why don't you play along?" "Because I do not see," said Hod, "I do not see the point of this, and I do not see well enough anyway to do that." "Can you not see?" Well, yes, I understand you have your different ability," said Loki, "but really, I could help. Why don't you come in and play, and then they'll know that you love Balder too, as much as all the others. I tell you what, I'll just make a little insignificant dart here. I'll put it on this tiny bow, and I'll direct your aim, and then you can say that you have played as well." And so it was. Loki cajoled the innocent Hod to take in hand the lethal dart of the mistletoe, to draw it back, and Loki aimed true for Balder's heart, and amidst all of the flashing and the crashing, the mistletoe flew true through Balder's heart, and everything stopped. And Balder said, "Today I die." And the mistletoe drew from Balder's heart his life and his light, and it grew out in bushels of green leaves with bright glowing berries filled with Balder's light as he himself fell. Balder was dead. The truth was dead. And then followed the long and torturous years of the Ragnarok, the end of all the gods of Asgard, of all the 9 realms of Yggdrasil, the end of it all, and all that remains of them are their names secreted away in our calendars. Balder had fallen, and he and his bride upon his great ship, the Ringhorn, were set ablaze and set out to sea, the fire on the water heralding the end of all. This is not a Christian story. There is no 3 days of mourning and rolling back of stones and return of the God to walk upon the waters and redeem all mankind. This is the story of the death of truth. Do you know the word true comes from a Proto-Indo-European root? Drew, so I don't know exactly how it would be pronounced, but it's the same root as the word tree. And a tree is true. And when we use the word true, as I've even used a few times today, we speak of something that is straight and steadfast. The aim is true, right? The wood work, anybody who works with wood knows how they look for that which is a true piece of wood. And interestingly enough, I think the word druid is made of the same root, drew, combined with the word for sight or knowledge. And so a druid is one who could see the trees, one who knew the truth. And the mistletoe is a parasite. It draws its life from the sap and the photosynthesis of the host tree, typically an oak. And unless the tree is strong, it can be the doom of that tree. I've had foresters tell me that when they see a mistletoe on the tree, they know already it's too late. The tree is too deeply infected to survive. What do we do when truth is infected with the parasite of lies? How did it get there in the first place? Well, let's see. The story tells how Loki, the deceiver, weaponized naivete and innocence to attack the truth, and how the lies of the mistletoe draw their energy from the truth of the tree. Well, any good storyteller knows that if you want to tell a tall tale, you got to start with the truth. And you take it from there. I don't know about you, but I see some nodding going on there. And I can't help but feel that this story is strangely and sadly relevant in the present time. I feel as if I'm experiencing the infection of the tree of truth and the brightening, alluring berries of the mistletoe all around, drawing light from the truth. See, truth, how do you tell the truth? How do we know the truth? We have ways of being true in our own personal integrity. We know that in our own sense of our own authenticity, right? But how do we know the truth when it's presented to us from outside of our own immediate experience? There's a linguistic problem here, which is style related. That is, there is a way in which we tell the truth. In the present day, we employ a particular linguistic style that I will call the illusion of objective journalism. Right. In other words, when you hear a news report, you're hearing a story without affect that is attempting to combine statements of information and fact in such a way that they sound true. That sound, would you agree with that, more or less? Yeah, right? That's our truth-telling. And again, storytellers know that if you want to tell a really effective ghost story, make it sound like a police report. Because it sounds true and becomes scarier. So there's a way to sound true, but not be true. And the way we sound true is by making statements without affect, but with fact. And in order to support the facts in those statements, we use the language of science, which is basically math. We use numbers. We use numbers to explain a thing, and those numbers are verification of the truth of what we're saying. And when those numbers and those statements of fact become infected with the deception of lies, we get a lot of what I hear around me these days. Maybe you do too. I see it in the grocery store. I see 4 rolls equals 8. 6 mega rolls equals 16, triple ply, ultra comfort, ultra strong. Regularly $34.99, on sale for $32.56. 2 more purchases and you will earn double points and get 20% off your next $50 purchase. The numbers are nauseating, right? So almost 1/3 of respondents approve, while 67% disagree on a random sampling of 2,000 or so, give or take, right? Numbers. These numbers come at us, percentages, points, to the point where they are thrown about, and we can't trust them anymore. And this was the language of truth. This was what told us this is true because this is the number. This is the accurate temperature. This is the time of day. This is the digitized truth. And it's filled with mistletoe. Right? If you and then there's just sort of the statement of truth, the sort of newsworthy statements of truth, like, if you want to live a better life, here's what you must do. You can have a slimmer figure, lustrous hair, whiter teeth, better bowel movements, a better attitude, better energy, better sleep. For the possible side effects of an allergic reaction, liver disease, cardio or cranial pain, inflammation of the joints, inflammation of the perineum, yeah. So we get subjected to this cognitive dissonance. But even so, with all of these troubles, look, you can play with your friends at the bowling alley, have a cookout, show your children how to build a tree house and have a loving relationship with someone. And so we are in a time of that follows the death of Balder, that time of Ragnarok. But I do not come to tell you this in order to offer despair. I will tell you, for myself, I am working daily to live with despair, but not to despair. There's a difference. And I think one of the things that we want to learn to do is how to live with despair, because it's all around us. And it's trying to find its way in, just like Loki, outside the halls of Balder. And there's a couple ways that I've noticed that I've begun to think about, and I want to discuss this further, because this is really what I'm sharing with you today is not certainty. In fact, I think certainty is dangerous in this time of the death of truth. That's how it feels to me. I'd be curious what you think about that. But I think uncertainty is one way to live with despair. And actually, I think uncertainty should be the 8th principle of the Unitarian Universalist search for fair and reasonable truth and meaning. So what do I mean by all of that? In 1938, E.B. White, remember E.B. White? Charlotte's Web, Trump, right? He wrote a column called One Man's Meat. It was for Harper's Weekly. And he had been with a group of journalists who were invited to observe and write about, therefore help promote and market, this new technology that was about to come onto the shelves. It was being developed. It was called television. And they were all gathered in a room where there was a great big box with a small circular screen, full cathode ray tubes, and in a nearby room, a woman was singing on a microphone, and her image and her voice were heard through the television. And they were all invited to write about it. I must remark as an aside that ever since then, the image of women has been exploited by that medium. It's kind of interesting. But he went away and he wrote this. He wrote, "Television will enormously enlarge the eye's range. And like the tabs, the mags, and the movies, it will advertise the elsewhere. We will be invited to abandon the primary and the near in favor of the secondary and the remote." He goes on to explain, real sounds will be replaced by the recordings of sounds, and real visions will be replaced by images that are concocted. But he writes, and it was quite a telling, foreboding observation. We will abandon the primary and the near in favor of the secondary and the remote. And I don't know about you, but I find myself getting caught up in dealings that are happening in the world, and they are very important. But they're thousands and thousands of miles remote from where I am right now. So there's something in what he observed, especially given the media sphere that we live in, which commandeered truth, brought us truth back, with truth tellers, like good old Walter Cronkite, I'm dating myself, with the language of truth that we assign to our newscasting and our forecasting, with the language of truth in terms of its objective journalism and the prevalence of reliable numbers. That media sphere, drawing us away from the primary and the near to the secondary and the remote. So it suggests to me that there's another direction for us to go. Instead of, if we've gone all the way to the secondary and the remote, let's find our way back to the primary and the near. And one of the things that I learned last year, quite dramatically, well, it's actually almost a year anniversary in a month, was Hurricane Helene that hit Asheville. Asheville's my hometown. And what I discovered was all we had was the primary and the near. And what I watched was how all of a sudden we rediscovered being present with each other in the same place, sharing the same problems, solving them together. And those natural catastrophes, if there is a blessing in them, that's the blessing. They are reminding us, we who have lost our minds to the secondary and the remote, are getting reminded what it means to live together. I lit a candle this morning for a dear friend and colleague, Gwenda Ledbetter, a celebrated storyteller in the storytelling movement, had been the story lady of Asheville in the 60s. She told stories at the library and was on the local television show as the story lady, and then celebrated on the stages of the National Storytelling Festival and beyond for many years. And we worked together and shared stories with each other. And Gwenda was especially good at fairy tales. But about 12 years ago, she died last month at the age of 95. And as her daughter wrote to me and put it quite well, she wrote, "Grief and relief are holding hands." Gwenda knew what was up and she knew where she was going, and she died peacefully in her sleep. This is why I wanted to get the book back from Thea, though, because she found off her, we were just talking about what I wanted to share today, and she found this great quote: "When we are unhurried and wise, we perceive that only great and worthy things have any permanent and absolute existence, that petty fears and petty pleasures are but the shadow of the reality. This is always exhilarating and sublime. By closing the eyes and slumbering and consenting to be deceived by shows, men establish and confirm their daily life of routine and habit everywhere, which still is built on purely illusory foundations. Thank you, Thea, for finding that. About 12 years ago, Gwenda announced to her friends mostly by email, that she was turning off the TV and looking out the window instead. And for the past 12 years, she began writing to us about what she saw outside the window. This woman told fairy tales and was steeped in them all of her career. And now she was looking out at the fairy tale of the world outside her windows. And we read every morning. It came to be called the Morning Watch, and her group of readers, listeners, we listened with our eyes by reading her observations. She looked out the window and she wrote to us about the robins nesting in a nearby tree and the sound of their chirp, chirp, chirp pattern. And she wrote to us about the grass growing and the leaves of the trees and the minuscule botany and biology that was occurring inside the veins, and just found outside her window in the primary and the near the fairy tale of fabulous life in the present place. So, from Hurricane Helene and from Dear Gwenda, I take some of my strategies for living with despair, focusing on the primary and the near, and seeing truth where I can find it with my own eyes, and hear it with my own ears, and feel it with my own heart. That boy who lied, we who have lied and lived with lies, in the story I told earlier, how do we redeem the truth and bring it back? I don't know. It's going to take work, and it's going to mean learning to tolerate each other's company again, because we create the truth. Now, Ragnarok is an old story. I'm sure many of you knew it. And Baldur may have been a familiar story to you. It's important to point out that that happened. It happened a long, long time ago. Truth has died and come back. The Norse myth says that after Ragnarok comes a new age, a green age, but there's not a lot of detail about what that's going to be. Well, it's being told by the people who came after the death of truth. And truth has died since then, several times. Remember when it was true that the world was flat? Remember when it was true that the earth was the center of the universe? Remember when it was true that the sun was the center of the universe? But now we know the sun itself is an orbiting body with a hula hoop of planets all around it, and it's spiraling in corkscrews all around who knows what the next truth will be. So we have lived through the death of truth. And I'm not entirely sure how, but somehow we found our way back to the new truth. And we see that happening in our sciences today. The truths that we hold to be self-evident about gender, for example, our truth about where intelligence resides in the body. Wait a minute, was it the brain or the gut? And the truth about who we are in our own bodies. Is it my human cells or my microbiome? Right? So we're in this time of the fall of truth. But there is a green age coming. And to get there, we got to do it together somehow. So I ask you, come after the service today, maybe grab your coffee and come on in, and we can talk about it. We can enjoy the primary and the near while I'm here, because I usually come and I visit, and we have a little chit-chat afterwards, and then I'm on the road to home, and we've got to go home today. I'd like it to be a little more substantial before I rush off.